I've been in private practice for about 15 years. Before I got trained in EMDR, I was doing probably a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, a little somatic stuff. But once I got trained in EMDR about 7 years ago, that was a game changer for sure, because I was working with a lot of clients that had a lot of trauma, and I didn't really feel like I had the tools to really help them heal the way I believed they could. So yeah, I got trained through CompassionWorks. You were the trainer.
Welcome to Conversations on the CompassionWorks Way. I'm Jordan Schaefer, and this is a chance for me to talk with people about what they're doing, things that they know about that I find interesting and think are important, and I think you will too. Today I'm talking with Tricia Gagnon. She's a licensed professional counselor out of Flower Mound, Texas. We talk a little bit about the Inspired Awareness Retreat that she does with her partner, Mark Lopalo, at Ghost Ranch this year. And really it's for, I guess, healthcare professionals or helping professionals, she says, I think. Yoga teachers are welcome, really anybody want to go and get rejuvenated, really. They do a little bit of yoga. It includes the sound journey they do in the evening, and then meditation, and also discussion and group projects, interaction. So it's a great retreat, and she talks about it. And then we spend more time talking about how she uses EMDR inner therapy practice. So she's a therapist and works with people really who have a history of trauma or just life experiences that they're stuck in. And so we talk about her use of EMDR with that and how she incorporates it in her treatments, her therapy. She became an EMDR therapist a few years ago, and in fact, because she was doing so well, she turned it into a group practice, and she'll mention that. She incorporates emotional parts work, yoga, and EMDR. We go through how she uses that, how she incorporates that in her practice, and just kind of step through, how she works with people to give you a good idea of what it's like to be with her treatment and what she does. I will say after an hour talking with her, being in her space, I guess, that I felt better. I mean, it's like that she does something good. At the end of the conversation, we do talk about she's qualified to use ketamine treatments. The ketamines are, I think, a psychedelic, right? So she uses that now with people, and so they come in to do ketamine. So I guess if you take a trip, you can let Tricia be your guide. Here's my conversation with Tricia Gagnon. I think you'll like it. I think it's really good. So I'm here with Tricia Gagnon, and Tricia, you're an LPC, master's level private practice in Flower Mound, right?
Flower Mound.
Right. Oh, nice. Okay, right. And so, but let's talk about the Inspired Awareness Retreat, and it's coming up in June. It's coming together, and it's for really mental health professionals, but also yoga instructors, I think.
Yeah,
any medical
in the helping
professionals,
professions, right? And they're giving out a lot to clients or patients to have a chance to really learn some ways to recharge and stay out of that burnout zone so easy to slide into.
Okay. So the retreat, and we did it last year, and it was great. People loved it, and I loved it. But basically, it's a little bit of yoga, a little bit of some talking, discussion, a little meditation, afternoons. What else can you say? A little food.
I mean, it's very much a relaxed
what can people
pace
expect?
To be able to enjoy the facilities there. It's a beautiful, beautiful environment to be surrounded by Carson National Forest and have trails that you can just go off from Ghost Ranch to explore. And so just being in that environment is really, really conducive to relaxing and being served nutritious food and not having to think about anything really besides the being present with the opportunities we're offering for, like you said, starting off your day with yoga and meditation, and then learning some of the science that really validates and fortifies why these practices are so helpful and how you can really use them in a way that makes your self-care a lot more efficient and effective. Once again, so your cup is full and you have a lot to pour out of. And like you said, we have group discussion and everybody gets to know each other. And at the end of the week, we have a group sing along and, do some fun outings, going to the spa. It's really neat. Yeah.
You liked the spa, didn't you? I was going to mention that.
Yes.
You were reluctant, but
I
the
highly
spa
recommend it.
worked out.
That's a really neat. The Oja Caliente, the spa, the springs come up from the ground, and they created a way to contain it so you can enjoy them. It's really neat.
Oh, and the sound at night. Will you bring the gongs?
That's right. So after dinner, and visiting or exploring or whatever you want to do. In the evening, we gather and we do a sound journey with 4 gongs and crystal bowls and singing bowls, Tibetan singing bowls. And that's a way to really deepen your meditation practice and experience what deep meditation can really be like and what can happen. And so people always love that. It's great to do to kind of end the day at sunset.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of things as I think about it, and I've done it with you a few times. One is the mind can't grab on to anything because the way the sounds work is it tries to I think it's that idea of neurons that fire together, wire together, that it tries to make sense of it, so it'll go down, but it can't. So then it stops and it goes somewhere else and tries to make. And finally, the mind just lets go. And at that point, or at some point, then the body just resonates with the sounds. So 2 things. One's the mind letting go, and the other one is the body's on the cellular level starts resonating with the sounds. Exactly. So, you think?
I mean, you've got the mind surrendering and letting go to the process, and then the body's able to really receive. So it can become very somatic for people, and they can experience, where they've had previous injuries, they may experience healing or tingling or sensations. So you never know what's going to show up, but always kind of what people need or the individual needs kind of shows up. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we're clear that's a group activity in the evening when people you lay on the ground really, and then their gongs and singing bowls and
chimes,
little tingly things.
We bring lots of bolsters and blankets and extra yoga mats, and so you're really comfortable.
Right.
We have really neat other little fun instruments, flute, chime.
Okay, and then the other thing, let's talk about it. Yeah. What do you feel like we've covered that retreat?
Mark and I could maybe do something later.
Yeah, we could do the 3 of us. So the other thing we wanted to talk about, because people are interested, and it's important really, is how you as a therapist use EMDR in your clinical practice of psychotherapy, right? And I think, well, probably you haven't always done EMDR, so what'd you do before EMDR? And then you don't just do EMDR anyway. And we can talk about what that really is too, in terms of the eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy. But basically, what would help you get started talking about it? How long have you done EMDR?
Yeah. Well, I've been in private practice for about 15 years. And before I got trained in EMDR, I was doing probably a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, and a little somatic stuff. But once I got trained in EMDR about 7 years ago, that was a game changer for sure. Because I was working with a lot of clients that had a lot of trauma, and I didn't really feel like I had the tools to really help them heal the way I believe they could. And so I got trained through CompassionWorks. You were the trainer, and
oh, you did. Oh man. Wow, you still here?
Yes,
so really,
it was
was it in Dallas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you and Brittany were doing it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Oh, Brittany was there.
And it was such a huge paradigm shift, but it really just clicked. It made so much sense. And then I started practicing it with clients, and they were really getting great results. And of course, that made me happy. It made them happy. They started referring their friends and relatives and for EMDR. And my practice grew so much that I was realizing I was referring people out to other places. And I thought, well, why don't I just hire some people? let's in the house, So, so that really allowed. Yeah. I really credit EMDR with allowing my practice to grow so much so that the group practice could evolve as well.
So the paradigm shift involves, for me, I can talk about it, but for your perspective, what is a different way to look at the human experience?
And just to really learn how trauma is stored in the brain and how triggers work. And it all just gave a really good framework for what was happening with the clients and a way to explain it to them as well, so they could grasp and not feel so helpless and feel like there's a path forward out of, the dysregulation and the triggers and things they were experiencing. And so it's just thinking about their experience in maladaptive material and adaptive experiences, and having those two different ways to categorize their life experiences, and then how we could use those both in their healing.
Yeah, and so how do you roll it in? Well, let me ask this: what other modalities do you use? Do you use other modalities
after
along with EMDR?
So after I started my certification process with EMDR, because I did want to get certified so I could continue to really deepen and get support and really master EMDR, so to speak. So I got consultation, and I kept, and I started getting more difficult clients with complex trauma, and really ran into their parts, their protectors, their protective ego states, and really sought out consultation for that. And the person I was doing consultation with introduced me to internal family systems, and I really resonated with that as well. So I got trained in that, and I bring that in with the work with EMDR. I also am a registered yoga teacher, so I bring that in with clients in different phases of EMDR, in the preparation phase especially, but really kind of both of those in each phase, really, all the phases.
Okay, so how do you roll yoga in? Do you have people do asanas poses while you're talking to them?
It's more about not where I have done it while I've been processing before, but typically it's more in phase 2 preparation. teaching them some ways to regulate their nervous system and some more grounding tools with breath work, or maybe like some folding poses to help calm their nervous system if they started to get really dysregulated, things like that. So they get to try it, see how they like it. I get to see how comfortable they are in their body. And if they're not, what we can do to help them be more comfortable in their body, connected to their body. And so that could determine that the preparation stage is extended if they're disconnected from their body before we go to phase 3 and 4.
So you use the yoga to help people manage their nervous system.
Basically.
That's, yeah. I mean,
and start to
part, I guess.
Connect with your body. Also to start to connect with their body in a pleasing way, to start having a collaborative relationship and a positive relationship with their body, so they can I work with a lot of women that have had sexual abuse, and so they often feel like their bodies have betrayed them in different ways, and they're very disconnected from their body and often hate their body. So this is the beginning of forming a positive relationship where they start to see that their body can be an ally and help them when they're dysregulated. And they could lean into that.
So the body shifts from being the problem to being an ally, a method of calming, I guess. Yeah, I was working with a guy, and he said he would tell his mind everything's fine. He was worried about the cold weather, I think, but anyway, tell your mind to calm down. It's all fine. And I thought, well, that really you can also tell the body to calm down. Kind of like if you had a little dog, calm down, you're fine. You can do that with the body too, right?
Absolutely. I think it usually works. If you know what to do, that can be a lot faster than telling the mind to calm down. It's like, just bypass that. Let's just go from the body and get that bottom up, relaxation going.
That's the bottom up approach. Because in a way, if you use the mind to calm the mind, then it's always in a struggle. But if you use the mind to calm the body, then the body will sometimes mind. So basically, if somebody went to you for EMDR therapy, what the first thing you would do would be to get a history right, would be to meet him, talk to him, find out what's going on, and then also get a life history. And then what kind of things do you look for or focus on? Is there any special area?
With history taking or just beginning of the time?
Yeah.
Well, I've definitely become a lot more trauma sensitive since I've been practicing in the last few years. So I really don't rush clients with the history. I want to make sure that they have a lot of tools, like the container, that they have grounding strategies, and maybe even complex if I have a sense from their ACEs or that there's a lot of history there, So I try to make sure that they have a lot of resources before we delve too much in the history. So that's changed over the years for sure, and making sure they understand that they can provide their history at a pace that feels good for them. That I'm not pressuring them, so giving them a lot of agency choice around that, and really working from the very beginning with a lot of strategies so that we kind of flow between phase 2 and phase 1 for a while, getting history, continuing to work on resources and grounding and strategies for managing either their dysregulation, whether it goes to dissociation or anxiety. And
so I think with history, with what we're looking at, the paradigm shift idea is we're trying to figure out how did your nervous system, I guess you could say, become unbalanced. Right? I mean, theoretically, the nervous system is out of balance. It gets excited when it shouldn't be, when it doesn't need to be, and it may be calm when it should be aware. Right? It's out of balance or out of order. So we're looking at how that happened, and we're hypothesizing that's what's causing current life difficulties. But anyway, phase 1. Phase 2 then is how do you manage this nervous system that is out of balance? One mistake I made is I just thought, well, if you just did EMDR, the nervous system would right itself. But that was a faulty thinking on my part. And so what you're saying, what I'm hearing is, you teach people how to manage the nervous system they have before you try to reorganize it or rebalance it.
Yeah, well, I think it's both.
Is that right?
At the same time, because, if we can use EMDR to release that trapped energy around helplessness or whatever it is going to help the nervous system recalibrate.
Yeah.
But I did learn, like you, from the beginning. I learned from mistakes that.
You did?
If they don't have the ability to tolerate that in between when things are not back to homeostasis or the energy still in flux, they would get discouraged. And so, or feel like there's something wrong with them. They're broken. They can't do EMDR, things like that. So I want to set people up for success because EMDR is such an amazing modality and process that I want to make sure, as much as I can, that they're going to be successful when we do go into it, and feel that it's helpful. So I really do spend probably more time than some people in the preparation stage. I don't know, but it works for me.
So you start with the parts. When do you roll in the parts work? Is that, that's along as you go.
Yeah. We'll also in the preparation stage, we'll administer the DES. And so that's often kind of the first time that if they have a higher score or in their history taking, there's incidences that either they remember dissociating or we think that might show up. We'll go ahead and talk about that as a part of them, a protective part, and get to know that part a little bit and do psychoeducation around that. And just talk about how we're going to work with that part and how much we appreciate that it might come in when we're processing. And if it does, this is how we're going to handle it. So that's usually kind of the beginning of talking about parts. But it could be other things, it could be if they have parts that are anxious or worried about doing EMDR right, or they're anxious about it, or afraid something, Pandora's box is going to open. They're not going to be able to handle the healing. So it kind of depends on what's going up. But we'll work with those parts.
And to be clear, we're talking about emotional parts, which is some part of our brain. Well, I don't know. A part has a sense of self, right? Is that how do you? Yeah, some emotional part is developed an identity, an ego state. Is that what that's why they call them ego states?
So I'm just trying to get the parts to all be on board, that we're all going to be collaborating for the client's healing, and to feel safe, that they can express what they want and have a place to speak their needs and concerns.
Yeah, I liked when you said recalibration. Instead, I like that better than the word healing, but hang up, right? To help the mind body's recalibrate. In a way, the recalibration implies adaptation, right? And that's, I think, what Francine was suggesting. What she realized is that if something is maladaptive, meaning it's not adjusting to current situations as it goes, so we're really helping their nervous system recalibrate so it can be in the present moment as things appear and disappear to match it.
To really be able to connect to safety and feel safe in the present moment. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Right. So that you're
you feel as safe as you are, really, right?
The reality that you're safe.
Yeah, and that is one of the differences between trying to tell the mind you're safe and telling the body, oh, you're safe. Because the mind, in a way, I don't know the mind, but the brain, in some sense, is wired that I'm not safe. Maybe that's the whole issue, right?
Yeah.
At some level. Is due to childhood trauma or earlier life experiences, the nervous system gets wired in a way that it doesn't feel safe when it is safe.
Yeah. So, and I don't think, it can be helpful to have those words of I am safe, but if the client really can't connect to that feeling in their body, there's going to be a disconnect, or they don't know how to create those feelings in their body. I don't think the amygdala is going to get the signal from the talking.
Right. I think it doesn't go that way. It goes, well, like you said earlier, the bottom up. But it doesn't go from the top down. All right. Well, can you talk a little about then how you decide to use, so by EMDR, we're talking about the whole thing, I know, but basically we're talking now about when you activate a memory, a life experience, I guess you'd say, target, and then you let the brain reorganize around it. So the EMDR, you could say standard protocol or EMDR processing. You may not technically use the standard protocol all the time, right? My assumption is you don't just let me ask, do you do the standard protocol as written every time?
Pretty close. I haven't actually checked the script, so I'm not completely sure, but I do use the standard protocol pretty much for everything, unless, something else is warranted, like the recent events protocol, or because it works. And my mentors use the standard protocol for almost everything. And so, I stick to that pretty close.
And then could you talk about just how you decide to use it, when you decide to use it? How do you go forward with it, that kind of thing? The standard protocol. So I don't know, I'm assuming some people hear this are not really know EMDR, right? So there's the history phase, and then there's preparation, calming people, getting them ready. And then there's the actual processing of of maladaptive neural networks, right? And that's that's a step you do in session. But so how do you decide when to go ahead with it? When to pull off of it? Do you do it every time, back and forth? Kind of talk about that.
When the client I feel like they're pretty stable, relatively stable for them. That is relative, but there's some stability there. They're practicing some of the regulation and coping tools that we've developed that work for them in and out of the office. Then that gives me a sense that they're ready to process their trauma. And so we'll identify a target, and I kind of like to do a beta test. I don't necessarily start with the first or the worst for the first time I'm working with clients. I like to do a beta test. So we might start with something that's significant to them in the present, that's going to give them some present relief that they can see in action, and see how they tolerate EMDR. And if they're, we just go through the standard protocol. I always ask, because I have that parts training, that internal family systems training, I found that it's a lot more helpful and things go smoother if I ask permission from their parts before we begin processing. See if there's any concerns or anxieties or just anything. I'm just checking with all their parts in the system to get permission. And once we get that or address concerns that those parts have, then we'll begin the processing. And then I stick, pretty much to the integrity of the protocol, unless they do have a part that comes up that's blocking the processing or looping or something like that. Then we may work with that part if a simple interweave doesn't kind of move things along. But
do you use the Fraser table to identify parts?
Sometimes, not that much.
Not that much. So mainly you identify them.
Sometimes we'll map them out, which is kind of like the Fraser's table. I mean, I have them sitting at the table, but we've got the parts mapped out.
And then once you start doing the processing, do you do it every week or every, how does that
just
go?
Really depends on the client. I know that's something that in the beginning, I thought, when I first got trained in EMDR, I felt like once I started something, I needed to finish it. But now I've decided that I really trust the clients. It's a combination of trusting them and then being a leader and just reminding them that we have a target we might need to finish and providing space for that. So it could be that we do a week in between and just kind of talk about what's going on in their life currently, and then we go back to finish up the target. I've started doing a lot more EMDR intensives and longer sessions when I work with targets, so that we can make a lot of progress. And that's been really, really nice for the clients to have that completion. Not every client can do that. I know that. But when we can, that has been really fruitful to really have 90 minutes or 3 hours or 4 hours, depending, and really go deep.
Oh, okay. Can you talk a little more about that? So sometimes you actually do a 3 hour
and
session.
That provides space, once again, like I said, just to really check in with their different parts and do some grounding in the beginning to help them connect to safety in the office. And then do usually the standard protocol. And in the middle, we may take a break and do some stretching, just moving the body, providing a little more space for that energy to flow and release from the body, and then go back and finish processing. And we don't always finish the target, but we can usually make a lot of progress. And so they really feel a sense of accomplishment, that we got a lot done for them that day. And then ending with maybe some sound, some bowls, some chimes. Yeah, and just have a little bit of time for integration and rest. Nice. So it makes it a really nice experience, and it's allowing them to really commit and focus on their healing and be nurtured and have this space held in a way that a lot of people have never experienced, that kind of that kind of process of really devoting time to themselves. And
Yeah, I guess I see it more as a come and do it and then leave. You're making it more of a whole process.
Shavasana.
What is that thing at the end where you lay there?
Yeah.
What do you Shavasana? So you do Shavasana with
yeah.
I never thought of that. That's why you got all these clients coming. They want to come and sleep.
Like you did some really hard work. Let's take some time for you just to kind of be present and not do anything and let the integration happen and give yourself this gift. So
never thought of that. That's good. Yeah, because that's really what can be included in it is we're waking up this memory, which is, by that I mean body sensations, the emotions with it, the pictures with it, smells, taste, sounds, with that memory. We're bringing it to awareness, to the surface of awareness, really. Then we're going to do some kind of bilateral stimulation, and I don't know, we could talk about what you prefer in terms of that, eyes or movement or tapping or whatever. Anyway, and then so we let the brain kind of reorganize itself. We said earlier, realign, and then recalibrate. What wasn't the word? Recalibrate. Yeah, recalibrate. And then at the end, or I guess at the end, then you allow the person to reintegrate that into their nervous system so that it has a chance of
so it can hopefully a new place like for homeostasis. It might not, it's working on one target,
right?
Probably not going to repair the whole nervous system, but it can be a new plateau of normal, what normalcy can feel like. So,
well, my guess is it goes in fits and starts. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's a big shift, sometimes there's a little one, but you're allowing. It's kind of like pulling a rubber band when you stretch it and then letting it relax again. It won't go back all the way, but you're just allowing that to reorganize. Yeah,
I like that rubber band.
You got me peaceful right now. Yeah. Well, talk a little about the type of bilateral stimulation you use.
Not really. I mean, it does matter, but I mean, I used to do eye movements a lot more before COVID. So once that happened, I started doing the buzzers, the tappers, so I could have, a lot more. So there's distance between me and the client.
So there was distance? Yeah. I always had a lot of distance. So
yeah.
Throw them the pulse.
So, and then I found they work really well. But if they're not working, or a client dissociates, or I feel like they really need my presence to be in their field so that it helps them to really help them regulate, then I do sit closer and do the eye movements. And those are generally about the two that I do the most. Sometimes I'll do, with clients online, we'll do the tapping if they don't like other ways to do it.
I did the tapping with somebody and it actually went pretty well. I was skeptical of it, but at least with her in that session,
it works a lot.
Process.
Yeah. I think for some clients that what the feedback I've gotten is that they didn't really think about it till they did the self-tapping, and then they realized they liked having control of the process. Like for their parts that were maybe helpless in the trauma, having control of the process allowed them to go deeper than having it done to them, so to speak.
Because really, you don't know when to stop. I mean, you might, but I don't. In other words, you'll stop it, and it could be just at the place it needs to keep going. Mm-hmm. Or you could go longer than, right? And you could say, well, there's an intuitive connection, but that's kind of goosey. or if they got their own way to manage it. Okay. Well, anything else? You want to did we leave anything out, or what you want to add?
Well, I also have started doing ketamine assisted psychotherapy and pairing EMDR with that, and that's worked really well. So I can use EMDR to help clients that have experiences in their ketamine journey that are really positive. We can use EMDR to anchor those in for resources so they can go back to that felt sense they experienced. And that's been really fun and really neat to see how that felt sense can be such a great resource for clients as they move forward.
Well, I've always thought the safe, calm place is really activating that felt sense. But the ketamine has the same. Now, are these people that go do ketamine somewhere and come to you later?
They're doing the tablets in my office, and they have a medical prescriber in process they go through with Journey Clinical, who I partner with, and they take care of the medical screening and prescribing. And then the clients are taking the tablet in the office. And I guess what's a little bit different than Safe Calm Place as far as their experience is a lot of clients can have a felt sense of a spiritual experience that can be very, very deep. And that is something that, like I said, we can anchor that in for a very, paradigm shifts on like feeling peaceful and the vastness and the void and just very different experiences that clients may have a harder time reaching. But the medicine seems to help them be able to reach these really deep transpersonal states. And then that can be, like I said, a resource. And, relieve burdens. I mean, burdens, new outlooks on trauma, that energy of the trauma can be dissipated a lot easier sometimes because they can tolerate it. Their system can tolerate it. They have anesthesia, so to speak, to really help them not feel dysregulated while they're releasing it.
Can it ever become, disruptive or dysregulating?
It can.
Is it always peaceful? It can go either way.
That's once again where the IFS parts work can be really helpful to work with the parts before, during, and after if they did feel that feeling they might have felt out of control, and that could be concerning. And so then we work with that, and so it's not always pleasant, but there's it's all grist for the mill to work with. Whatever comes up, it's all layers about the client's parts, their experience, their habits that we can work with.
You're leading edge. That's good for you.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Yeah. And the future of psychedelics with EMDR, with other psychotherapies. I think there's a lot of potential and opportunities that are going to be available for clients with PTSD and trauma healing.
And do other people in you have a group practice? So other people in your group
I'm the only one.
Also do the ketamine?
But almost.
You're it. Okay, all right. And we'll have your contact information on the website somewhere. I mean, so but you're in Flower Mound.
And an EMDR consultant.
And I guess
well. With CompassionWorks.
An EMDR consultant, right? No, you're right
individually,
there. Right. See what happens.
All right. Okay. All right. Thanks. Talk to you later.
Okay. Goodbye.